Joins me now to talk more about the U.S.-China relationship is Jia Xiudong, Senior Research Fellow at the China Institute of International Studies. Professor, it's good to have you with us here. During the meeting with President Xi, we heard a softer stance expressed by Tillerson, but some commentators say eventually it's President Trump and also who calls the shot, and also the hawkish folks from the intelligence community and the military community here in Washington. Do we see a disconnect here?
No, there is some concern over the direction of China-U.S. relationship under President Trump's administration, given the rhetorics made by President Trump during his presidential campaign. There are also, of course, advocates in the United States for a tougher action or approach towards China on various issues like trade and the nuclear issue on the Korean Peninsula. But it seems that so far, as China and the United States engage each other with more communications like the phone conversations between President Xi and President Trump, and now very frequent high-level exchanges between the two countries, there is a very positive tone now set for the future engagement between the two countries. So the latest visit by Secretary Tillerson really brings a measure of confidence in the future engagements between the two countries, at least for the next few months, as the two countries look forward to a meeting, a summit between the two presidents at this very early stage of Trump administration.
We know, Professor Jia, there is always seems to be a geopolitical flavor to economic initiatives, such as the One Belt, One Road initiative, and also the AIIB proposed by China, but refuted by the Obama administration. So what role do you foresee America to play in China's Belt and Road initiative this time around?
Well, with China's Belt and Road initiative, China hopes that it can join hands with those countries, about more than 70 countries along the road and belt, for greater cooperation in economic and trade relations. Of course, with this initiative, it will bring greater stability and prosperity in the regions like Central Asia, the Middle East. And actually, this initiative is project-based. That is, we can see many projects in, for example, building infrastructure, better communication, even telecommunications. So the United States actually can play a very significant role on this. For example, the U.S. companies, businesses can join hands with Chinese businesses in all these projects. And also the United States can, for example, provide the funding, expertise, export its technology to these projects, because China alone certainly will not make the initiative successful. And the question is whether the United States can view the initiative as a good opportunity, rather as a kind of a strategic, rivalry project initiated by China.
Well, finally, Professor Jia, on the DPRK, we know this issue has been almost like a chicken-egg problem. The DPRK blamed the U.S. for years of hostility, economic sanctions that partially led to its poverty. And also, on the other hand, the U.S. accuses the DPRK of, taking provocative measures over the decades. So what could be the solution, and what role could China play in the potential denuclearization of the peninsula and so the Xi-Trump summit?
Yeah. Each nation, in the Korean Peninsula and in the neighborhood, has its own security concerns, and the DPRK hopes the U.S. will not pose such a kind of threat, threat to the survival of the regime in Pyongyang, and the United States hopes that the DPRK will not move ahead with its missile and nuclear programs. So it is very hard for the two sides to take an initiative first. That's why China has proposed that, well, they will maybe a better solution will be that the two sides will take a simultaneous move to suspend both the missile and nuclear programs, the massive joint military exercises by the United States and South Korea. So that will may be viable at this moment because no one would like to take their first move towards easing the tensions. And so China is trying to convince both sides that this solution is viable. But of course, it's very difficult for the two sides to accept this initiative, this approach. But at the end of the day, is there a better solution, a better option? Even though the United States has said, including the Secretary of State, Secretary Tillerson, when he was here in Northeast Asia, that all options are available, are on the table. But we should ask a crucial question: will a military solution viable for this region? Will all sides be ready for this confrontation between the DPRK and the United States and South Korea? If no, do we have a better solution? So it seems that this dialogue is still remains the only viable solution at this moment. So China is trying to work for that solution, even though it's so difficult, so challenging.